Well, this evening I'm in Charlton House in Charlton when I've been speaking to an audience about some of the arguments for leaving and some of the arguments for staying, and hopefully helping people to think about some of the arguments to help them make up their mind before the EU referendum. I'm sitting here with three people: Thomas, who's decided he's going to vote out, Paul, who's decided he's going to vote in, and Helen, who's still undecided. So Thomas, tell me for you, why have you decided you're going to vote out?
I think the EU is heading in one direction, and that is towards ever closer union, trying to take on the United States and Russia as a global superpower. I think they're trying to rope us into that. You see that with the kind of direction and the policies they're implementing. I think there was a UK before the EU, there will be a UK after the EU, and I think we should stand on the global stage in our own right.
I suppose David Cameron would say to you, well, one of the issues of negotiation has been to take out that phrase ever closer union so it doesn't apply to the UK. What do you say to that?
You can take out a word, you can't take out the attitude.
Paul, you've decided that you want to vote to stay in. What are your arguments and what's made you come to that decision?
I guess it comes down a lot to a head and heart issue. Head, I recognise that there's arguments on both sides. I certainly, like a lot of people, would love to see the Commission especially reformed and made more efficient or streamlined, if you like. But I also strongly believe that as a country we are better off being part of a larger union. The EU is still a massive importance to us as a country, and we're better served by being part of it and having a seat at the table.
Now, there's some people on the Leave campaign who would say, well, actually, we should be part of the global economy, as it were, and it shouldn't only be about the EU and about 500 million people. There are 6.5 billion outside, and wouldn't Britain be better off out? What would you say to that argument?
I think it's a difficult one. I mean, I think obviously there is a wider world, and no one's suggesting that we'd be in Europe and nowhere else. I would like to see Europe be a bit more adept at negotiating trade deals with countries where we don't currently have trade deals. But I think a point that was made earlier tonight by yourself, for instance, was that chances are you'll still get those trade deals with other countries, and you'll get a lot better deal if you're part of the EU than if you're just there on your Todd.
Helen, you very kindly put together this event tonight, and one of the reasons you put it together and organised it was because you yourself are still undecided about which way you're going to vote. What are the arguments that you're considering?
I feel uncomfortable because I still don't feel I have enough information, despite the great evening that we've had. My feeling is that there is a lack of accountability when things get that complicated, and I completely understand why it needs to be that complicated, but I have a concern that with a lack of accountability comes a lack of true democracy.
And so you talk about the complexity of the whole EU, and you understand why it might have to be complex. But so given that argument, what's making you think, well, actually, I shouldn't necessarily vote out? There is an argument for staying in.
I'm not even thinking that, really. I'm really not. I'm still in two minds. Right. I couldn't, despite this evening, and I think it's been really useful and really helpful and has underpinned a lot of the reading that I've done, because I've read around the subject. I still don't know. We've
had three very different, interesting perspectives tonight, from Thomas, who wants to leave, from Paul, who's instinctively going to vote to stay in, and Helen, who's still undecided and feeling torn. A lot of issues to be discussed in the months ahead. Anyone listening to this will have all their own issues that they feel very strongly about. It's going to be a long, interesting discussion and debate in the run-up to referendum. How are you going to vote?